Hello everybody, it's Tim here again with another video, this time for something a little bit off the beaten track. I actually thought, why not do a script review as opposed to another movie review? And I've recently gotten a hold of a lot of the scripts that were not used, like, the alternate drafts or whatever for Freddy vs. Jason. And some of those scripts for the Friday the 13th movies, as well as the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So I figured, why not do some reviews for those? So I read the Lewis Abernathy script first. I read that one first for Freddy vs. Jason that wasn't used. It was called Nightmare 13, Freddy Meets Jason. Lewis Abernathy, I believe I know he's worked on some other stuff. I'm not 100% sure what it was, but I know I've heard the man's name before. I know he's worked on some other stuff in horror. He may have worked on one of the Stepfather movies. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he might have. Maybe the Stepfather 2. Could be wrong, though, but I know he's worked on some other stuff. But this was his draft for Freddy vs. Jason. And in terms of this, I gotta say, it's pretty bad. Like, nothing against the dude. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but in terms of his script draft here, this was bad. The movie we got was a lot better than what this movie would have been. Basically, what Lewis Abernathy did with the material is similar to what the movie did. He made it a Freddy movie. The script is a Freddy movie. Jason is still the co-star, and Jason is still the one who ultimately wins the battle at the end. Jason is the winner of the fight in this script. And I probably predict that Jason is probably the... Sorry, I had a hair in my mouth, but I probably predict that Jason is probably the winner in most of these scripts because he's just inherently the more sympathetic character. So it would be kind of weird if Freddy won. Wouldn't really make much sense. And this is the script that I believe may have been the first one to introduce the Freddy cult called the Fredheads, which was an idea that I never really liked hearing the sound of, the Fredheads. But yeah, in this script, it picks up sometime after Freddy's dead. It doesn't take New Nightmare into continuity, which makes sense. So it takes place after Freddy's dead, but it doesn't pick up after Jason Goes to Hell, weirdly. Like, they just ignored Jason Goes to Hell, and they pretty much just... I mean, there is a reference to the fact that all the other Friday the 13th movies kind of did happen, but they just ignore, like, the ending of Jason Goes to Hell with, well, Jason going to hell. Jason's just dead, and you find out he was killed in, like, battle or whatever by this dude named Murdoch, who ended up getting brain damage because he got in a fight with Jason and had to, like, shoot him down, and the Murdoch dude, like, got part of his head, like, hacked off or whatever by a machete or something like that and messed up part of his brain, and now he's, like, crazy, and he just wants to, like, go around murdering what he calls punk kids in the script, which are represented by the Freddy cult called the Fredheads, which is still a stupid name. But I will say I did kind of, reading the idea of the cult in the script or whatever, I was like, you know what? This is kind of goofy, but at the same time, like, an idea of a cult of Freddy worshippers, that kind of could work. But it feels more appropriate for, like, a standalone, like, Freddy movie. Like, if it was a Nightmare on Elm Street, like, it wasn't a Freddy vs. Jason movie, even though the script is still, like, a Freddy movie, just like the release movie was, with Jason as ultimately becoming the lesser of two evils and the anti-hero. Which is really the only way you can kind of do a Freddy vs. Jason movie. You have to have one character who ultimately, it feels satisfactory for them to win in the end, and they logically pick Jason. And that's really the only way you can go with it. So, like, if it was just like a Nightmare on Elm Street 8 or 9 or something, with just like another Freddy adventure with the characters trying to survive Freddy, and there's also a cult who's trying to bring Freddy into the real world, with all of his powers, like in this script, I actually think that would work for a standalone Nightmare on Elm Street movie. In terms of the script, I felt like they kind of just took away from the time with Jason and everything. And the character Murdoch or whatever, he's really over the top, talking about how much he hates kids and shit like that. And he keeps calling them punks in the script. It's pretty bad. And then basically what the Freddy cult wants to do is they want to kidnap a girl, rape her like 100 times, hence, the son of 100 maniacs thing. Basically to do this kind of ritual thing where she gets impregnated by one of them, and then they want Freddy to, like, possess the fetus so he can be born in human form into the real world. Kind of similar to what they were kind of hinting at with the Dream Child, where he can be born into, like, human form in the real world, but with all of his dream powers. So he could be, like, a godlike entity in reality. And so there's this girl or whatever who's having, like, nightmares of Freddy and shit, where she's, like, gonna be... We're basically it's hinting that Freddy wants her to be, like, his bride or whatever. They kind of go with that, like, where she has nightmares where she's, like, in a wedding with him and there's, like, corpses and everything in the attendance of the audience and all that, which was kind of interesting to read. But ultimately, the girl's sister like gets kidnapped. I believe it's her sister in the script, and the cult's going to use her. And so, in order to do battle against Jason, Freddy, they decide to go and dig up Jason at the cemetery. And there is a funny joke where they're going to like dig him up, and there's like this guy there they stop and talk to, and they're like, "We need directions to the cemetery." And he's like, "Well, why do you want to go there?" And they're like, "Well, no reason." And in the script, and the dude's like, don't do anything crazy like dig up Jason, and this is kind of like a meta in joke, you know. And the kids are like, why would we do that? And he's like, well, people have done it like 1,000 times or whatever. In joke about the fact that Jason has come back like 1,000,000 times already. And when they get there and they see like the tombstone, I do kind of like this joke in the script. This actually did make me chuckle. On the tombstone, it has like date of death or whatever written for Jason, and it's got like each date of like each of the other movies like crossed off because he's died like 10 different times. That was kind of funny. Um, but so they dig up Jason's body, they take him out of there, and then the boyfriend gets killed of the main girl, and she like cuts his heart out to use it to bring Jason back. And so they take Jason's body, and I believe they electrocute it, like dump him in the lake, I think, and then they like electrocute him and put the heart in there inside of his body, the boyfriend's heart, and it brings him back. But Jason comes back, and because they brought him back to like, hey, we brought you back, so you owe us, Jason. You can't kill us or whatever. And he actually listens to the main female because part of her boyfriend, is inside of Jason now. So part of his like goodness or whatever is tamed a little bit of Jason's evil. And I do this one idea here. I didn't totally mind where when Jason is like being resurrected in the water or whatever, you see like a flashback or him have a flashback to his childhood, and you see his like dad Elias, who was abusive or whatever, and his mom Pamela ends up killing him. I didn't mind that, seeing a little bit more of Jason's history, and then she like tells Jason to like go out or whatever and get something. I forget exactly what it was, child Jason, and he goes over to like the lake and he's looking at his reflection in the water. And I actually kind of like this for character development. He's looking at his reflection in the water, and of course his face is deformed, and like the way the ripples go, they kind of make him look normal for a second. So you get the idea in Jason's mind, he doesn't like the way he looks, and so it provides it focuses a little bit on the sympathetic side of Jason, which has always kind of been inherent to the character, which I didn't really mind that there. But then Jason is like drowned by somebody. He's like literally murdered here in this script, which was kind of similar to what they ended up doing with the movie when we see like a flashback to his drowning, and he was getting the shit beat out of him by kids hitting him with rocks, and he ends up drowning. And then later on, by the end, you find out, spoilers, it was actually Freddy who drowned him, who was actually working as a camp counselor, and killed him because, well, he kills kids. So that was how they tied the mythology together. They try to rephrase it to the idea of that the reason Jason's been killing is because he's been killing every other teenager and all that indiscriminately out of anger because he's looking for the dude who originally killed him. And spoiler, it's Freddy Krueger. So I don't like that idea of trying to overly make Jason sympathetic. Like, I liked the idea of focusing a little bit more of his inherent sympathetic qualities of how he feels about his face and everything, but not trying to like go with the idea of like making him where he's like some kind of avenger or something looking for the dude who killed him or whatever. That's a little much. I'm fine. I prefer Jason just to be simple. He's just a guy who was deformed, drowned, comes back from the dead, kills everybody because he's just an endless amount of rage. He's like a revenant. I just prefer that. And you don't need to overcomplicate it. Like, I could go with the idea that Freddy was the one who killed him. Like, that's not too bad. But when you start going into it with the idea of like Jason's like some kind of avenger or something looking for the dude or whatever, and I'm like, no, you don't need that. But so there's the characters in the script. There's like this like punk chick or whatever kind of named Stormy or something, and then the script is just like really over the top. Like when Freddy's like, he's like actually a sequence where he's like driving after the main characters, and he's driving in like this claw mobile on the road, which is just kind of ridiculous. It's like more over the top than Freddy's dad. And Freddy ends up killing the Stormy character because she like punches him in the face, and he like absorbs her into his body and into his nose, and he has like a booger monster inside of his nose that comes to life and kills her. It's like, no, you too much. And the actual Freddy and Jason fight doesn't even take place until like the main end of the script. And I get it, they wanted to like build up to it, but the main end of the script, that's too long. What I appreciate about the movie is while it did take a little while, we did get like two big brawls, one in the real world, one in the dream world. Here, We get a fight in the dream world at the end of the thing or whatever, where Jason is fighting him in the dream world, and this is really bad. He's fighting him in the dream world, and it's inside a giant boxing ring. It's in hell, and the guest referee is Ted Bundy. And one point in the script, like Ted Bundy gets shot in the head, and he raises up and he goes, "Harvey," like a joke that the guy who shot him is Lee Harvey Oswald. Too much, too much. And Hitler even has a cameo in the script. In hell, it's like, no, no, you're going way too overboard. And I get the director's like in his inherent like sensibilities of what he's thinking here. Let's just make it this over the top, goofy monster type mash, or whatever. Just go silly with it. But it's like, no, you're betraying. You're going too far with it. You're betraying too much of what the characters are inherently as horror characters. You're just going way too far with the comedy, way too far with the camp. It's more over the top than like Seed of Chucky or Freddy's Dead. And then once Jason realizes that Freddy was the one who actually killed him, he pretty much grabs him and holds him and pulls him into the real world. And once they're in the real world, the fight is over in like 2 seconds. Like literally, when they're in the real world, Jason just like grabs Freddy and like crushes his head. That's it. It's over in like 2 seconds. Like they go completely with the idea that Freddy is pretty much close to normal in the real world. And when Jason grabs a hold of him, he just crushed his head. Freddy's dead. Done. That's it. That would have been really anticlimactic. They did overpower Freddy for the Freddy vs. Jason movie to make the fight more fair in terms of him like in the real world. But here, he's just way too underpowered. He just gets his ass kicked in like 2 seconds. But I do like the fact that they actually bring the Dream Demons in who are in Freddy's Dead. No, you don't really need them for a Freddy vs. Jason movie, but I like the fact that they bring the concept in of them back. And like when Freddy dies or whatever, the Dream Demons kind of like spill out of him and they like scurry off and disappear. And they can't bring him back. So I do kind of like that. And then after he's dead or whatever, like, oh, Jason also kills like all the cult members. He like rips them apart and kills them all. And after Freddy's dead or whatever, Jason, I believe after that, Jason kills the Murdoch guy. I'm not sure if it was before that or after that, but the Murdoch dude dies. And then the police like show up and they all like just shoot the shit out of Jason and gun him down. And Jason dies in like a big fight blaze of glory with the police. They just gun him all down. So yeah, it ends sadly for Jason. But at the same time, when I was reading that, I was like, what? Jason just gets shot to death? Like, just by small arms fire? That doesn't really make sense. Like, they literally had to blow him up with, like, a mini bomb, and Jason goes to hell, and the dude kept coming. And, I'm supposed to believe this guy who survived all this is taken out just by a bunch of small arms police fire? That was bad. And then the script ends pretty much with, like, the girl talking to her sister, like, the monsters are gone, and, and it's, like, a happy ending, and it's over. It's like, no, this was bad. This was a bad script. There were some ideas, like I said, that could kind of work for like a solo Freddy movie, like the Freddy cult, if it was less cartoony than what it was here. Like they could kind of work for their own thing. Jason like hunting after the person who drowned him or whatever, making him like a man on a mission. I don't like that. Having Freddy be the one who killed Jason, I was fine with that in terms of the script. Having the kills and stuff be so over the top, Freddy kills someone with a mutant booger, no. Hell no. So yeah, overall, this would have been an awful movie, and I can definitely see why New Line passed on it. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.